Have you ever had one of those weekends? You spend the whole time on the couch, telling yourself you're recharging, only to wake up Monday morning feeling even more drained than you did on Friday? You gave your body rest, but your mind? It was running a marathon of guilt. Well, that's the paradox we're diving into today, this burnout epidemic that's somehow turned rest itself into a source of anxiety. It's a super common feeling, right? You're lying there, not moving a muscle, but your brain is just going with this relentless list of all the things you should be doing. So what is going on here? Why does trying to relax feel like you're just falling behind?
Really, the heart of the problem boils down to this one powerful idea. You're like a machine that's never fully powered on, never truly engaged in something meaningful. But you're also never completely switched off. You're just idling. You're stuck on standby mode, burning energy without actually going anywhere.
Okay, so let's really unpack this feeling. To get why we're all stuck in this standby machine mode, we have to first take a hard look at the environment that created it in the first place, the modern state of work. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. On the left, you've got shallow work. This is basically our default mode, isn't it? Juggling emails, getting pinged on Slack, reacting to notifications, just constantly switching from one thing to another. And on the right, you have its total opposite, deep work. That's the state of pure, focused concentration on one single difficult thing. That standby mode we feel stuck in? Yeah, that's the price we pay for living almost entirely in that left column. So, the big question is, how do we get out of this mess? The answer isn't just try harder to relax or some new time management hack. No, it's about making a fundamental, structural change in how we operate. It's about building what we're going to call a fortress of focus. Okay, so let's get a really crisp definition of deep work up here. It's about taking on those tough, mentally demanding tasks in a state of absolutely zero distraction, pushing your brain right to the edge of its capabilities. We're not talking about just checking items off a to-do list. We're talking about creating real, genuine value. We tend to think of focus as this sort of magical mood that we have to wait to strike. But this quote completely reframes that. Focus isn't passive at all. It's an active defense system you have to build. It's a wall that you put up against all the noise of the shallow world. And here's the key takeaway. When you intentionally create this distraction-free zone, your very own fortress of focus, you're finally giving your mind, your neural operating system, the quiet space it needs to stop just reacting and actually start creating. You're letting it finally power all the way up. All right, so we've covered the what. Now let's get to the how, because this isn't magic, it's a method. There's a practical, systematic way to actually forge a mind that's capable of this kind of deep work.
The very first principle is something called resource concentration. Think of it like the 80-20 rule, but for your brain power. So instead of scattering your mental energy across 100 little trivial tasks, you channel all of it, 100% of it, onto that critical 20% of tasks that actually produce the biggest results.
And the payoff for that intense concentration, it is absolutely staggering. The quality of work you can produce in a deep state can be 10 times better than what the average, distracted, shallow worker puts out. It is a total game changer for your output. But it gets even cooler than that. This isn't just some productivity hack. It's literally a neurological process. When you do deep work, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways related to that skill. Seriously, think of it like this. Every single focus session is like a rep at a mental gym. You are literally building a better, faster brain. So when you look at it that way, the path forward becomes crystal clear. Step 1, you insulate. You build that fortress and you shut out all the noise. Step 2, you concentrate. You focus all your energy on a single important target. And step 3, which is just the natural result of the first two, you produce work that is rare, valuable, and incredibly hard for anyone else to replicate. Following this path doesn't just lead to better work, though. It actually leads to a profound shift in your identity. You stop being just a passive cog in a machine, and you become the architect of the whole system. This comparison just says it all. Most of us operate as a reactionary node, right? We're like a pinball, just bouncing from one incoming request to the next. The goal is to become the original architect, someone who isn't just reacting to their environment, but is actively designing it, managing their focus to produce something truly incredible. And this is exactly why the ability to go deep is basically the new IQ.
In an economy that's just drowning in distraction, the person who can actually sustain their focus holds the ultimate advantage. You stop obsessing over your calendar and you start curating your mental space. Time management takes a backseat to attention management.
And this right here is the ultimate goal: to create things, whether they're ideas, solutions, or art, that are so unique and so valuable that the constant chatter of the shallow world just can't compete for your attention anymore. The noise doesn't just get quieter, it becomes totally irrelevant. So I'll leave you with this question to really think about. Imagine you actually build that fortress. Imagine dedicating yourself to the deep work that truly matters to you. What could you accomplish? Who could you become when the noise can no longer reach you? Ever feel just constantly exhausted, even when you think you're getting enough sleep? In this explainer, we're going to dig into the real root cause of modern burnout, and more importantly, map out a way to escape. And here's a hint: it has nothing to do with your workload. It's something much, much deeper. So, let's just ask it straight up. Why are you so tired? You know, you get your sleep, you drink the coffee, but that deep in your bones fatigue, it just doesn't go away. And I bet you have a reason in mind. But what if the obvious answer is completely wrong?
Well, here's the thing most of us totally miss. We've been taught to believe that burnout is just about having too much to do, right? A packed calendar. But the real issue isn't the number of tasks on your list. It's that your sense of self, your identity, has gotten tangled up and fused with your productivity.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. This isn't some personal failure or a simple time management problem. It's the fallout from living in a system that basically sees our human need for rest as an annoying bug instead of a critical feature. And that's what leads to that profound, soul-deep exhaustion.
Okay, so how on earth did we get locked into this productivity prison? In this first part, we're going to diagnose the psychological traps that keep us running on this hamster wheel of burnout. So this is the big one, the core of the problem: identity, productivity, fusion. It's like your brain has completely absorbed this grind culture to the point where your self-worth feels like a stock price that goes up and down based on how much you got done today. The second you stop producing, you feel your value just plummet, and that triggers this constant low-level anxiety.
And you know that nagging anxiety? It actually has a name: productivity guilt. It's that voice in your head telling you that any moment you're not getting ahead is a moment you've totally wasted. This guilt makes real rest pretty much impossible because your nervous system is still on high alert, even when you're on the couch trying to relax. That guilt then leads to this really dangerous pattern we call performative rest. This is where we start treating rest not as something we need to survive, but as a reward we have to earn by first running ourselves into the ground. But here's the thing: rest isn't a prize for being productive. It's a non-negotiable biological requirement. And when you treat rest like it's optional, you start racking up something called cognitive debt. It's this mental deficit that just keeps growing over time, leaving you feeling foggy and drained always. This is exactly why you don't actually recharge over the weekend. You're just vibrating with the anxiety of feeling useless.
Okay, but look, there is a way out of this, and it has nothing to do with trying harder. The secret is understanding that real focus isn't some feeling you just magically summon. No, it's a structure. It's something you have to build. Let's get into what that structure looks like.
So just look at this. It shows the two modes we can be in. On the left, you've got the reactionary mode. This is where you're just reacting to everything, constantly distracted, always just trying to manage time. But on the right, you become the original architect. You're the one in control, creating a protected space for deep, focused work that actually creates something valuable. The whole goal is to build a bridge from that left side to the right.
And the protocol for making that jump is called deep work. Now, this isn't about working more hours. No way. It's all about maximizing the intensity of your focus in the hours you do work. It's a skill, and just like any other skill, you have to practice it. So, you gotta stop blaming yourself for being distracted and start thinking like an architect. Your ability to focus isn't just a feeling. It depends entirely on the structural barriers you build between your brain and the endless world of shallow distractions.
All right, so how do we actually build these barriers? This next section is the blueprint. It's how you can construct your very own mental fortress, a space that's designed for serious concentration and creativity.
Seriously, I love this metaphor, the fortress of focus.
Just picture your mind like a fortress. To do your absolute best work, you have to pull up the drawbridge, shut out all the noise from the outside, and give your mind the quiet, uninterrupted space it needs to really work its magic.
See, inside this fortress, you practice what's called resource concentration. Think about it. Most of us spread our energy super thin across 100 different little tasks. Deep work flips that completely on its head. You focus 100% of your energy on that critical 20% of tasks, the ones that actually produce the biggest results.
And the payoff for this kind of intense focus? It's not just a little bit better. It's huge. We're talking an order of magnitude better. By concentrating your power like this, you can produce work that is literally 10 times more valuable than what you'd get done in a state of constant distraction.
It really comes down to this quote. In a world that's just flooded with noise and shallow work, the ability to shut all that out and go deep, that is becoming the new IQ. It is one of the most valuable skills you could possibly have today.
Okay, let's tie this all together. How does building this fortress of focus actually solve that soul-crushing burnout we talked about at the beginning? Because the transformation here, it's about so much more than just being productive. Remember that awful feeling of performative rest? This is it, right here. When your identity is completely fused with your output, you can never really...
Okay, what if you could completely, fundamentally change how you approach your work, your creativity, your entire day? And I'm not just talking about a few productivity hacks here and there. No, we're talking about building a mental fortress, a structure that lets you do your absolute best, most original thinking. Let's get into it.
So, I want to start with a really simple question. Think about your typical day. Are you reacting or are you architecting? Seriously, is your attention basically a pinball, just bouncing from one email to the next notification to the next request? Or are you the one actually designing the whole game? This one question, well, it's at the heart of everything we're about to unpack.
Because you see, before we can find a fix, we've got to get real about the problem. And the problem is that we live in what you could call the age of reaction. It's an environment where it feels like we're constantly just treading water, struggling to keep our heads up, basically drowning in the shallows of endless, meaningless tasks. There's a perfect term for this state, a reactionary node. Just think about that image for a second. A node is just a point in a network. It receives information and it passes it on. It doesn't create, it doesn't originate anything new, it just responds. And when you're operating like this, your entire day is decided by pings, emails, and alerts. You're not in control. The network is. And this leads to this really stark contrast, a tale of two work styles. On one side, you've got shallow work. It's all about distraction. It feels busy, right? But it's not actually productive. And let's be honest, almost anyone can do it. It's replicable. But then you have deep work. This is focused. It is genuinely productive. And the stuff you create from this state, it's rare. It's valuable. The difference is literally night and day. And yet, our modern work culture seems like a machine designed for one thing, to keep us in the shallow end. So, the big question is, how do we escape this trap? The answer isn't to just work harder or longer. It's to work completely differently. It's time to stop treading water and start building your fortress, a dedicated structural barrier against all that noise.
So let's get a really clear definition here. Deep work is a protocol. It's a system. It's a way of performing really demanding tasks in a state of zero distraction concentration that pushes your skills right to their limit. The key words here are protocol and distraction-free. This isn't that waiting to feel focused. It's a disciplined practice you put in place on purpose.
And this right here is probably the most important takeaway of the whole thing. Focus is not a feeling. It's not some fleeting mood you hope to catch like a butterfly. It is a structural barrier that you build. You don't wait to feel focused. You build an environment, a fortress around your attention that makes focus the only possible outcome. It's an act of architecture, not an accident. Okay, so we know what we're building. Now let's peek under the hood and look at the mechanics, how this fortress actually functions, both in the real world and inside your brain. The process is called resource concentration, and it really breaks down into 3 simple steps. First, you have to insulate your mind from all the external noise. I mean, notifications off, tabs closed, doors shut, you get the idea. Second, you focus 100% of your brain power on one single thing. No multitasking. And third, while you're doing this, something incredible starts to happen in your brain. You begin to myelinate the important neural circuits. So what on earth does myelinate your circuits even mean? Well, think of it like this. Every time you concentrate super intensely on a skill without getting distracted, your brain wraps that specific neural pathway in a layer of fatty tissue called myelin. This makes the signal travel way faster and more efficiently. It's like upgrading a bumpy dirt road into a fiber optic cable. You're not just working, you are physically strengthening and upgrading your brain's hardware for your most valuable skills. And the result of all this deep, focused brain upgrading work? The improvement isn't just a little bit better. We're talking about a massive, massive leap in the quality and the quantity of your output. By concentrating your resources like this, you can produce results that are potentially 10 times better than what an average person can do when they're stuck in that state of constant distraction. 10 times. So here's the bottom line. In an economy that is just flooded with shallow, easy-to-do tasks and a lot of noise, the ability to go deep, to focus intensely and create something of real, lasting value, that is the new superpower. It's the new IQ. It's what separates you from everyone else. And all of this leads us to the final and I think the most exciting part of this whole idea, the transformation into the architect, the person who is capable of weaving true original innovation. And what a transformation it is. The reactionary node is obsessed with managing time, just frantically jumping from one thing to the next. But the original architect, they manage their neural environment. They're not just reacting to whatever comes their way, they are intentionally creating the quiet space they need to weave new ideas together. They stop skimming the surface and they learn how to dive deep. And this is the ultimate payoff. This is the end game. When you build your fortress and you practice deep work, you fundamentally change your role in the world. You stop being just a passive consumer of information, endlessly scrolling, clicking, and reacting, and you become an active producer of value. And not just any value, but value that is rare, that is hard to replicate, and that is uniquely yours. Which brings us right to our final thought. Our world is drowning in distraction, it's drowning in shallow solutions, it is desperately in need of people who can build, who can create, who can solve complicated problems with focused, deep thought. The world needs architects. So the only question left is, will you be one? Hey, welcome. Today, we are getting our hands dirty and building something. We're building what I like to call the fortress of focus. We're going to take that feeling of being completely burned out and turn it into a real, practical blueprint for doing the kind of work that actually matters. So let's get started. But let me ask you something right off the bat. Seriously, think about this for a second. Is your focus just a feeling? You know, something that you hope shows up, something that's totally unreliable and fleeting? Or is it a fortress, something you've deliberately built brick by brick to protect yourself from the chaos? How you answer that changes literally everything. All right, so we're not going to start with some high-level theory. Nope. We're going to start with a personal challenge. It's time to actually confront the noise that's keeping us so exhausted all the time. We're going to try a little experiment. I call it the non-negotiable nothing. Sounds a little weird, right? But its whole purpose is to shine a massive spotlight on the invisible forces that are constantly draining your mental battery. Here's the deal, and I'm serious, I really want you to try this later today. Set a timer for just 15 minutes. That's it. And for those 15 minutes, you are forbidden from doing anything productive. Put the phone away, don't pick up a book, don't even think about tidying up. Your only job is to just sit there, breathe, and pay attention to what's happening inside your own head. Now, this is the most important part, because what's going to happen? You're almost definitely going to feel this wave of guilt, this nagging anxiety telling you to get up and do something. Don't push it away. Don't fight it. Just watch it. Notice how it tries to pull you back into the hustle. By just observing that noise without reacting, you start to take your power back. You know that feeling of guilt you just watched? Well, it's a huge clue. It points to a massive misunderstanding we all have about what focus really is. And that brings us to the big aha moment for today. This is the idea that changes the entire game. So look at this. On the left, that's how we usually think about focus, right? It's a feeling. It's unreliable, it's reactive, and it all depends on our willpower, which, let's be honest, runs out pretty fast. But on the right, that's the big shift. Focus isn't a feeling you find, it's a structure you build. It's a deliberate, defensive barrier that depends not on sheer willpower, but on smart architecture. And the name for the protocol that builds this structure is deep work. And listen, this isn't just about trying to focus really hard.
No, it's a very specific, almost sacred state of distraction-free concentration where you are pushing your mind to its absolute edge. That's where the magic happens. That's where you create real value.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? Well, it starts with a conscious decision to step inside our fortress of focus. And I mean it, this isn't just a cute metaphor. It is a strategic choice to protect your most valuable, non-renewable resource, your energy. I mean, just think about the world we live in. It's basically designed to keep us in the shallows, right? Constant pings, endless emails, back-to-back meetings. It's a system that rewards being busy, not being effective. And boom, there it is. In a world that is completely optimized for shallow work, the ability to consciously ignore all that and go deep, well, that's the new IQ. It is the single greatest professional advantage you can have right now. The system that powers this is something called resource concentration. You've probably heard of the 80-20 rule, right? Where 20% of your effort gets you 80% of your results. Well, this is like that on steroids. It's about taking 100% of your best, most focused energy and aiming it like a laser at only that critical 20% of tasks.
And the payoff? It's not just a little bit better. It's not a 10% improvement. We're talking about a potential 10x increase in the value and quality of your output compared to the average person who's just spinning their wheels in the shallows. That is game-changing.
So you can see this isn't just about learning a new productivity hack. This is way deeper. It's about fundamentally changing your identity. It's a shift in how you see yourself and your role in the world.
So which one are you? On the left, we've got the reactionary node. This person is obsessed with time management, always consuming more information and constantly reacting to whatever email or notification pops up. But on the right, that's the original architect. This person doesn't manage time, they manage their neural environment. They don't just consume, they create. They don't react to noise, they cultivate silence.
This needs to be your new mantra. Seriously, stop trying to cram more tasks into your 24 hours. It's a losing battle. Instead, start building and protecting the mental and physical space, your neural environment, that allows your best ideas to actually surface. That's the real work. Let's bring this all home. This whole journey isn't just about getting more done. It's about ending the soul-crushing cycle of burnout. It's about starting a genuine process of renewal. It's about you taking the controls and weaving the kind of future you actually want to live in.
And this quote just says it all. When you've built your fortress, when your system is insulated from the chaos, that feeling of having to force yourself to work just melts away. The friction is gone. Your mind is finally free to dive deep, way, way deeper than the noise can ever reach.
So here it is, your final blueprint. First, remember that your burnout is a signal that the system is broken. It's not a personal weakness. Second, focus is a structure you build, not a magical feeling you hope to find. Third, your job is to become an architect, not a reactor. Fourth, you have to protect your energy like your life depends on it, because your best work does. And finally, and this might be the most important one, remember that rest is not lazy. Rest is your most powerful, most strategic move.
So I'll leave you with this one last thought. Once you've built that fortress, once you've created that precious internal silence, what incredible, beautiful, golden threads are you finally going to weave?